Welcome back to RSA Conference 2024. I'm Jeff Mann, co-host of Paul's Security Weekly, and we are broadcasting live from Broadcast Alley in Moscone West here in beautiful, sunny, and warm today, San Francisco. It's Wednesday, it's the third day of RSA, it's the late afternoon, and we're all getting a little bit punchy, so we're going to have a fun conversation now. With me is Jason Keirstead. He's VP of Collective Threat Defense at a company called Cyware. Jason, welcome.
Thanks, Jeff. It's great to be here today.
Hey, first, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into cybersecurity.
So my background goes way back to about 22 years ago. I started with a startup called Q1 Labs. We built, at the time, it was actually what's nowadays called NDR, but back then it was like the NBAD space.
Okay.
We very quickly pivoted to the SIM space and built a product called QRadar. We were acquired by IBM in 2011. I stayed with the company for a long time and decided to try some new things a few years ago and found my way to Cyware. So a long history in cybersecurity technology. I'm starting on the engineering side and then basically building my way through working with a lot of customers and a lot of stuff in the threat intelligence and standards space. So in addition to my day job at Cyware, I sit on the board of directors of Oasis Open, which is a nonprofit body that stewards a lot of cybersecurity standards like Styx Taxi, Cacao, OpenC2. I also participate in First.org, Standards Committee. I've done a lot of things at the MITRE Center for Threat and Foreign Defense in the past. So I do a lot of stuff in open source, open standards, open security. I'm very passionate about this idea of collective defense and working together in the industry a lot more than we do today. I think that one of the biggest challenges in cybersecurity is that we just don't work enough together. We reinvent too many wheels. I could kind of talk all day about why I think that is, but there's reasons for it that have to do with just the culture of cybersecurity and secrecy. People hesitate to share and stuff, but what drove me to Cyware was the mission of the company to enable collective defense and try to break down those barriers and bring technology to the fore to help people share more effectively, help people collaborate more effectively.
So, I mean, you're sort of implying it with what you're saying in terms of the lack of collaboration, but give us a short working definition of what you mean when you say collective defense.
Sure. So collective defense it starts with sharing and operationalizing threat intelligence, right?
Okay.
Being able to, do the basic operations that people do in sharing bodies like ISACs and ISAOs, and secret squirrel clubs and others that shares threat information. But collective defense is the next level beyond just sharing threat intel. It's actually collaborating in real time around things like detection rules, around things like incident response playbooks, process and procedure, things like compliance and policy remediation. So when zero-day threat occurs and everybody is scrambling, trying to respond to the latest incident, instead of doing it in silos, in SOCs all over the industry, collaborating with your peers on that zero-day threat analysis so that you don't have 10 different SOC teams all trying to build the same detection rule for the same threat actor.
Right.
Why not build it together in a trust community? Because you'll save so much time, money, and effort doing it that way.
Okay.
Our adversaries are collaborating a lot better than we are, and that's what we at Cyware are trying to help enable.
I mean, I'm familiar with the ISACs of the world. I have a friend that started one of the first ones back, 30 years ago maybe. And I know they've always been challenged with, just within an industry sharing anything, because of the fear of losing that competitive edge, and they're all competitors and they're not supposed to like each other anyway.
Yes.
How does that look? How do you approach that sort of fear and reticence in a different way and accomplish things in terms of not just coordinated sharing of our shorts were down, but hey, all of our shorts are down. How are we gonna fix this problem?
Exactly, and I think that And to your point, it has been a challenge, right? People have been hesitant to share and even more hesitant to collaborate, right?
Sure.
Like, and it took a long time to get us to the comfort level of, okay, I'm comfortable sharing these IP addresses in my trust group.
Right.
We've got to then take those same learnings about, yes, it took us a lot to get over that hump, but guess what? The whole world didn't catch on fire when we started sharing this stuff.
Right.
And actually, it was a big force multiplier. We need to get to that same level for things like detections, for things like incident response. Because again, we, for the most part, right, we are all fighting the same adversaries. Now,
Sure.
when I say that, sometimes you get a little pushback, oh, I'm dealing with nation state APTs, this is a highly sophisticated actor, they're targeting my organization. That is true, right? There's always going to be those targeted adversaries, but I like to think, I drive a lot of my thinking by the 80-20 rule, right? Like,
Sure.
and sometimes we let perfect be the enemy of the good in cybersecurity. If we can tackle 80% of the commodity threats, things like ransomware, phishing attacks, drive-by downloads, if we can tackle that side of the problem so we can refocus our efforts on these more sophisticated threats, right? Think about how much better we would all be as an industry.
Sure. At the risk of throwing a curveball to you, do you have an opinion, very brief opinion, on how legislation and proposed legislation is going to help or hinder what you want to see happening?
So I'm a big fan of some of the new legislation and regulatory action that's been coming out, both here in the United States as well as in other parts of the world. I think that, some of the stuff that's been happening over the past 18, 24 months, I'm not going to name any names or any specific instances, but we all know what's been happening lately.
Right. We don't talk about Bruno.
Yeah, so that's definitely raised the profile of the risk to, both the country and the economy. And
Sure.
so it's great that we're now seeing that regulatory action come into play. I'm very encouraged by some of the stuff that's going on. Organizations like CISA encouraging more sharing inside of the U.S. federal agencies.
Yep.
So we're hoping to see a lot of great outcomes come over that over the next 18, 24 months. So I'm optimistic about it.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about Cyware. So where does Cyware come in, and what does Cyware bring to the table to help all this happen?
Yeah, so at Cyware, we focus on two primary vectors. So we've been talking a lot about collaboration. So we have a purpose-built cybersecurity collaboration platform that powers over 85% of the National Council of ISACs.
Okay.
We also, have customers all over the world that leverage that platform to share and collaborate on collective defense. So it's not just typical threat intelligence indicators, compromise and things like that, but we actually let people share detection rules, collaborate on incident response and things like that. So Cyware Collaborate's kind of a one-stop shop for an ISAC or ISAO or any community who wants to share information to get up and running really quickly. The other really exciting thing that we do is we work in this cyber fusion space. So we bring in threat intelligence and apply orchestration and automation to that intelligence and help you up-level your incident response by, essentially being able to prioritize the highest risk incidents first, apply that automation wherever it makes sense and is possible to pull the enrichments in. And, essentially what we're trying to do is bridge together all the things that were formerly siloed pieces of information, right? And we do that a number of different ways. We're a big supporter of open standards, things like Stix and Taxi, because they help enable this interoperability and pulling all that information together.
Right.
Everything in Cyware is built around those data models. That really helps us because Stix is a natural graph of intelligence, so it helps us reason about the data. So we bring all the data in from these different places, model it as Stix, helps us create those insights and then apply it to the incident response process.
Okay. So you're collecting a lot of data.
Yep.
And there's this buzz around RSA this week about evolving technologies that consume that data and do amazing or scary things. Tell me something real about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're alluding to AI and some of the buzz around AI that's going on in
Quite
the past
possibly
couple of
might
days.
be, but I
Possibly.
refuse to say it.
So I think so. There's both a very positive and strong use case for AI in cybersecurity, and there are definitely some things to be skeptical of, right? So on the positive outcome side, how are we seeing AI be leveraged to be very effective? One of the most powerful ways that we've seen is helping the incident responder and the threat hunter be able to orchestrate things more effectively. So a great use case that we're running through with our clients in our quarterback product, which we launched a couple of last week, which is our AI subsystem, is the ability to go in and say, hey, I have these 10 million compromised credentials that are coming in from this threat feed. Quarterback, please tell me whether or not there are any accounts in my Okta instance that match any of these compromised credentials. And then, having that be able to go and do that and automatically tell you I have found 5 accounts that match that data set. Okay, I want you to reset all those people's passwords. Done. I have gone and sent and reset those people's passwords. Perfect. I now want to add an updated create a ticket in ServiceNow that says that we go and remediate these 5 accounts. Add a note to follow up on this next week, and then send that email off to John Smith. So being able to do that in plain English within a matter of seconds, and not having to understand, maybe I've never used Okta before because I just switched to it from a different IDP. All of that's now abstracted away from you. You don't have to worry about all those different nuances about how to do that and all those different tools, because the AI is really great at doing that for you. Now that only works if your AI is able to have all those integrations integrated out of the box. And thankfully, the way that we've built our quarterback system, we're able to leverage all 400 plus of our integrations that are part of our SOAR product from day zero, which is one of our kind of unique differentiators. So now to pivot back to, what do we have to be concerned about with AI? One of the things that I am challenged with here on the floor of RSA is, so I work a lot in the standards interoperability space, as we were saying, and I kind of see an impending problem developing where every single major vendor in cybersecurity is building their own AI system, right?
Or at least they claim to be.
Or at least they claim to be. And
and they've been doing it magically for the last 7 years.
Right.
But go ahead. I'm sorry.
And don't get me wrong. So I just gave a great use case for AI, and there are there's more. Things like helping accelerate reporting, helping summarize threat reports. But the challenge is if everybody builds their own AI and those AIs are not able to interoperate and talk to each other and exchange information effectively, we are once again recreating this big interoperability problem, which is the same problem we had with SIMs, the same problem we then recreated again with EDRs, and we're on the path to do it again with AI. So, one of the things I've been talking a lot about the past couple of days to people in the hallways and at a couple of events is I'm trying to advocate for vendors to come together to try to develop systems and mechanisms so that these AIs can talk to each other. So that you can go and talk to an AI from major vendor A, ask it a question, and it knows that vendor B owns some of that information, and it can go and talk to the other AI and pull that information back.
I think I can think of maybe a half dozen science fiction movies where they're going to start talking to themselves anyway, whether we like it or not.
Yes.
But we have a few moments left. Any parting words of wisdom? Anything you want to really leave our audience with to think about, to ponder?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I could wave a magic wand and have anything change in the cybersecurity industry, it would be that everybody collaborates and shares a lot more information and kind of gets over the fear bubble about being worried about sharing and collaborating too much, right? I think it has to do with the background of the industry and the culture and things like the CIA triad and people thinking that confidentiality applies to everything. I could talk about this at length, but I think that
I've been talking about it for 40 years.
But again, like our adversaries don't worry about any of this stuff. They don't have legal teams to concern themselves about, sharing their latest tactics, techniques. So we have to figure out how to do that to keep up with the pace of innovation. So
great. Well, Jason, thanks for taking the time to sit down with us today and talking about the reality of things versus the not so reality of things. If you guys want to learn more about Cyware and what they're doing, and especially this idea of collective threat defense, go to securityweekly.com/Cyware. That's CYWARERSAC. That's going to wrap us for now. Thanks a lot, Jason.
Thanks, Jeff.